communications. Fox News reports that planner died while driving in a car along with an associate. It comes one day after President Biden said to those responsible for the bloodshed that, quote, "We will hunt you down and make you pay."
There are more people in minority communities.
Hunt the killers down who killed our service members and many other people and injured them as well. How do we do that? And does that mean we have to go back in?
I hate to say this, Greta. I think those are hollow words meant to appease people that are rightfully angry for the unnecessary loss of the lives of our service members doing really, really difficult work out there in enemy territory. I don't know why anyone, we won't even leave the wire, so to speak, to go get our American citizens that are trapped behind enemy lines right now. So what makes anybody believe that we're going to go out hunting down these people that are responsible for this? And one thing is you can always count on with Joe Biden is he never fails to fail.
Well, can you bring me back a little bit further, though? Back in February 2020, President Trump negotiated a deal with the Taliban. So he's working with the Taliban. Fast forward to now, and now President Biden has worked a deal essentially with the Taliban, a security deal. That has obviously failed. I mean, both administrations have been working with the Taliban. Was that just sort of a Hail Mary pass, that this was just over and we were desperately trying to get out and trying to save some honor?
We haven't saved much honor, to tell you the truth. And as far as a Hail Mary pass, I think it's just a rush to the exits. I do agree that, look, I think many of us were vexed when President Trump was negotiating, so to speak, with the Taliban. But what we did appreciate was a conditions-based activity. The circumstances under the Biden administration are nothing like that. There are no conditions. As a matter of fact, the Taliban is dictating the conditions. That's no place that America ever believed it should be in.
Was there any way to protect the people this week? Because there was a warning, there was a publicized warning, but I realize that when you've got crowds and crowds of people, it doesn't take much for one person to slip on a suicide vest and go into that crowd. But we had some sort of warning. Was there some, do you think there would have been some way to sort of beat this, so that these people were not able to do this attack?
It's very difficult under the circumstances, Greta. Let's face it, the only military way probably, and that's really the only options left, is to expand the perimeter. And to expand the perimeter, you have to have the personnel and the equipment to do that. First of all, we gave the Taliban via the Afghan army all the equipment. And second of all, we're trying to get out, which under these circumstances is exceptionally difficult and exceptionally dangerous. So this is an awful situation, but let's be clear. We put ourselves, when I say we, not the United States of America, not the United States military, not the people wearing the uniform, the policymakers, not the boots and the troops, but the suits made these decisions. And now, unfortunately, the troops have to execute it somehow.
What do you say to our NATO allies at this point?
I would say to our NATO allies that this is not the America that you have worked with since the beginning of NATO, and to stay with America and to know that this Biden presidency is likely only to last for 3.5 years, and then we can get back to our mutual agreement about the mutual threats that we must face and working together. My concern is
Congress, but do you get your questions answered?
Well, I get them answered. We haven't called the White House directly. Quite frankly, I suspect they are overwhelmed with not only with a lot of questions from members of Congress and a lot of demands, but what I want to know is, that they are focusing on the matter at hand. I feel that way even about the president's communications with Americans. I think it's important that he do so, but what I really want to know is that his first attention is with those folks in the Situation Room and getting everybody out as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. Obviously, we have already lost too many service members. Even one is too many, and we've lost a number now.
Congresswoman, with the news of this past week in Afghanistan, naturally the question becomes, what do we know? And I'm curious, since you're on House Foreign Affairs, prior to July 8th, when President Biden made the announcement we'd be out by August 31st, did you have information at all about what we might expect?
I don't believe so. I didn't. We were obviously monitoring the situation closely last year. under the Trump administration and observing what was going on there. But no, we didn't have direct information prior to July about what was happening prior to the time the president made his announcement.
I think the question really is how we get out, and and that also has bearing in terms of timing. And I think that's where, as we look at the recent events, and we see the deterioration, how quickly the Afghan government fell. It's how we did it. Was the intel poor? Do we have poor quality intel? What's the problem?
Well, my thinking on this has evolved a little bit, and it has done so because of the input of my colleagues who are either on the Intelligence Committee or have intel backgrounds. In particular, Representative Jason Crow, who has been very clear that he does not believe that there was a failure of intelligence. In fact, he has counseled us just in the last few days not to use the term intelligence failure because he doesn't believe there was one.
Well, then what was it?
There was a determination made, I am presuming, that there was never going to be a good time to get out of Afghanistan and that it was imperative that we do.
Kareem Nikoui, David Espinoza, Jared Schmitz, and Riley McCollum. McCollum just 3 weeks away from welcoming his first child.
He was excited. He would have been a great father. He was ready. He was happy.
Well, some more news this morning on evacuations. U.S. officials say around 3 dozen unaccompanied Afghan children have been taken into U.S. custody after being evacuated. Around a third of them now have been reunited with their families. Guys?
Julia, thank you so much. Still coming up here on GMA this morning, COVID in the classroom as kids across the country.
In a briefing this Saturday, Pentagon officials also gave an update on the mission at hand, saying a total of 117,000 civilians have been evacuated since extractions began. Those extractions include U.S. citizens, U.S. permanent residents, special visa applicants, and others. They say the vast majority being Afghans fleeing Taliban rule and about 5,400 U.S. citizens extracted so far. U.S. officials say despite the attack, the United States will continue to focus on evacuating civilians. Major General Hank Taylor comments on the service members who were supporting Operation Freedom Sentinel. Americans in the vicinity of Kabul airport to leave the area immediately because of specific credible threats. The warning said U.S. citizens should avoid traveling to the airport and avoid all airport gates at this time. Taliban forces had sealed off Kabul's airport to most Afghans, hoping for evacuation, as the U.S. and its allies were ending a chaotic airlift that will end their troops' 2 decades in Afghanistan. This Tuesday, August the 31st, is the troop withdrawal deadline set by President Biden. However, he and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken had suggested that the country would continue extractions of civilians beyond the deadline if necessary. Those evacuated headed to the U.S. bases around the world before traveling into the United States or relocated. An American base in Germany has dealt with the arrival of over 20,000 Afghan evacuees. Rows upon rows of military tent at Ramstein Air Base have become the temporary home to Afghans waiting for resettlement in America. Speaking to Sky on Saturday, Brigadier General Joshua M. Olson said his officers' work is not about politics, but humanity.
This is humanity of people want a better place, and we talk about giving them a better opportunity. I wouldn't say it's a frustration. I think it's a passion. It's a passion.
At the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul during a civilian extraction this Thursday when a suicide bomber attacked the Abbey Gate at the airport. The 13 troops killed in the Kabul attacks were the first U.S. service members killed in Afghanistan since February of 2020. Since then, Biden has vowed to retaliate against ISIS and those who wish to harm Americans. Today marks the second drone strike ordered by the president in less than a week since the airport bombing. Newly released satellite photos showed that crowds had mostly left Kabul International Airport and were gathering at Afghanistan's southern border with Pakistan. The images from Planet Labs Inc. showed roads largely clear around the airport on Saturday. The Spin Bulldog at Afghanistan's border with Pakistan, an image from Thursday, showed teeming with crowds trying to cross into Pakistan. The U.S. State Department early on Sunday urged all Americans in the vicinity of Kabul airport to leave the area immediately.
Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous
us fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets' red glare, the bomb bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh,